The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Burke Reviews Movie Club. I'm John Burke. With me this week, Corey Starr.
Special guest Corey Starr, as always. Hi.
Yeah, special. You are special, but in the best way possible.
Okay, perfect.
No,
good save.
We get together every week and we talk about movies, and we don't always say this in the podcast, but we started this podcast because Corey and I both have giant, massive gap list of movies that we've not seen. Some that we own, and some that we know we should watch. And this podcast makes us watch them, right?
Yeah. And
it's a lot of fun. We get to talk about movies that we've seen outside of the podcast, too. We do like a little bit of, what have you been watching lately? I just literally got home from a movie right now, like maybe 15 minutes ago. And I'm also talking to one of my students who just saw a movie that I know Corey saw the other night. I saw a week ago at a critic screening, and we'll definitely get into a little bit of Hereditary talk. But before we do that, Corey, how you doing?
I am doing well. It was a long week. I'm so glad it's the weekend. I get my hair cut tomorrow, so I don't have to shave my own head. It's good.
Oh.
How are you?
Well, I do shave my own head twice a week, actually. And
hey, that's commitment.
I probably should do it more, but I'm too lazy. And I am still recovering from a cold. I think I was sick when we recorded one of these. We recorded on Saturday. I think I started getting sick on Saturday. I was sick. I'm sorry, no, I've recorded a lot of podcasts this week because I recorded Bloody Awesome Movie Podcast. Our May episode just dropped. And I'm doing a new podcast with Matt on his podcast, What I Watched Tonight show, where we will do a monthly podcast where we analyze a year. We call it Movie Astrology. So the first year that we did was 1988. And so we broke down 1988 with historical facts. We looked at the top 10 movies. We went into detail about all the movies from 1988. Not every single one in detail, but we talked about a lot of stuff from 1988. Who died that year, like actors, celebrities that died or were born that year. Interesting enough, Michael Cera and May... I'm going to forget May's last name, but May played Roxy in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, born 2 days from each other in 1988.
Oh,
interesting fact that we learned. And then at the end of the Movie Astrology episode, I and Matt have decided on, we're dubbing the year, because it's Movie Astrology. So, like the Chinese New Year has, like, the Year of the Dog, the Year of the Dragon. So we're going to assign every year a specific astrology sign. So if you were born in 1988, you have to listen to the episode to find out what the year is. But we also give a little horoscope at the end that it plays on some of the movie. It's fun. It's a fun podcast. But we recorded our first episode the other night, and I was sick as a dog, so I'm pretty sure you'll just hear me coughing every 15 minutes or so. But
John thinks it was a really good episode, but he was really just... No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was so out of it. I'm just, like, mumbling.
He's like, kidding.
There was no podcast. I made it all up. It was a fever dream.
No! Matt's going to message you. What are you talking about? I'm kidding.
No, but do check out, not just mine, because Matt actually is doing all these different podcasts right now under the you just have to subscribe to one, What I Watched Tonight, the show, What I Watched Tonight show. And there are tons of different topics. He does interviews with other reviewers, but he's got a Harry Potter one he's doing right now, a comic book one he's doing. I mean, it's amazing. I created a monster. I got him to do our podcast once, and now the dude's just going ham and making all sorts of podcasts. So I'm proud of him. He's a good friend, and I'm glad to see he's putting out all this content for you guys for free, absolutely for free. He's my UK counterpart. What can I say? But that should be dropping any day, too. I want to talk about what we've seen, though, Corey. I want to start with you. Have you seen any movies?
No.
It's been a while.
I did.
I do. I know at least one.
So I started and finished Penny Dreadful, the show, seasons 1 through 3. I don't know where I was last time we talked, but I hadn't seen the last season before it got canceled. So I had to watch all of them because it had been a little while. And I cried at the end. And also, Josh Hartnett, I love you. And then obviously I watched our movie for the podcast. And then last night, because I think I hate myself, I went to see Hereditary on the opening night of its wide release.
Oh.
And it was in, yeah.
How busy was your theater? I'm wondering.
It was pretty busy, but I actually think that we were the jerks in the movie theater. I'm sorry. We were just like trying to like figure it out, you know? It's that kind of movie. We're like, what's going on? And so there were 4 of us, and we weren't being loud. We were being very quiet, and we were trying to do it when there was noise. But also, I think that I'm just not going to buy popcorn anymore when I go to these scary movies because they're all quiet now, and I'm super self-conscious when I try to eat my popcorn. But yes, I don't know how much we can talk about Hereditary.
Well, we definitely don't want to spoil it because it's only been out for just over 24 hours. Yes, officially.
Go see it in the theaters, everybody. If you're even a little bit interested, I think that this is a movie that definitely deserves your attention on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I would say the sooner the better, so that maybe you can see it in a bigger screening room. Because I don't know about you guys, but my theaters, we have really big, which I got to see it in last night. But then it's like we have really small theaters too. So
I saw it with just maybe 8 other critics, and our guest. So maybe not even. It might have been 16 people total. And I still had in a normal size theater, that's not uncommon for a critic screening in Orlando. Where there's only so many of us, and some get earlier screenings because there was another screening in Tampa that same night. So I mean things like that pull us apart and whatever. So and it's also like this movie was it's premiered at Sundance. It was at South by, and I think it played somewhere else in between that. I might be wrong, but I feel like there was another festival it was at.
Was it at Tribeca?
It was not at Tribeca. I missed it at South by, and I had tickets for it, but they delayed the start because of Ready Player One's premiere. And it was already like a midnight screening, so they was going to start at like 1, and I was a baby, and I just didn't want to go to a 2-hour movie at 1 o'clock in the morning, especially a movie I heard was really, really scary. So I didn't do it. So I waited, and I saw it last week. And even there, the people in the room still reacted. And I've been to a lot of critic screenings at this point, all A24, because they do me well over here.
We love you, A24.
And that's not just because you give me free movie access. It's
no, we've loved you.
Yeah,
we're like OG loving you.
You keep making good choices. There's been a couple of films that I didn't click with. I didn't click with The Witch, which I was worried about Hereditary because I'd heard a lot of people saying it's the new Witch. I'm like,
No,
it's not. It's not, and it's not at all. And other than it's A24 horror, and it is atmospheric, and it is, it's not going to be. I don't want to say anything. Like
Well, I do want to say this because it blows it out of the water with the atmosphere. Like everything that I was hoping for The Witch from all of the trailers that we were seeing and all that stuff, I was just expecting to go in and have all this great atmosphere and just whatever, and I didn't feel like it paid off. It never even came close to, you know what I mean? And I think that they did such a good job with with Hereditary, and I think that Toni Collette needs to win all the awards.
I love her anyways. I've been a fan of hers for a while, and this was one of my favorite performances. Actually, I thought the cast was really strong regardless, but I did feel that Gabriel Byrne wasn't the best I've seen him be. Not that he was bad, but I don't feel like he gave much to the movie. I don't know how much more I would have wanted. I have very little complaints, mind you, so this is a nitpick, but I did, when I was watching it, there was like 2 little moments throughout that I was just like, that's not as strong as I feel like it could have been given what's happening everywhere else. Like, it's just, it's so good. And we don't want to give away any plot points or anything, which I was really impressed with a lot of the marketing for this movie, but
I loved they were like selling the dolls on Etsy. I don't know if anyone else knows that. I keep telling people and they're like, what? And I want to buy them. Yeah, they were selling these dolls that were made of like the found things, like you see in the trailers. That's not giving anything away, but
I am
I want one.
Desperate to see this again, and at the same time not sure I want to. And it's such a weird feeling because like I can go watch it with my movie pass because I saw it for a critic screening, so I can still go see it, and I don't know that I want to. I'm not letting Kathy watch it mainly because of one moment in the film that I know will like just upset her so much, not like in a horror way, just in like I mean, it is a horror moment, but it's also like I know my wife well enough that I don't trust it. But my daughter loved it, and like yeah, it's been fun watching some of my friends on Instagram like post their thoughts after seeing it, like how freaked out I've seen people. It's pretty great. I don't know the last time I've seen a horror movie really get to this many people.
Okay, so I love The Conjuring. I think you're a fan too.
I am.
It's
the first one especially.
One of the best horror movies ever made, like not even just in my lifetime. And Hereditary kind of reminded me of that with like the atmosphere, and there's a part in there that reminds me of a part in The Conjuring, and not in a bad way, but it was fun. Like, I don't react a lot, and it was creepy. Not as creepy as the Babadook, but it was pretty creepy.
I don't know. I think it does a good job of... There's a lot. I mean, we could do a whole spoiler episode on this. I kind of want to. Maybe like... Maybe we should,
while it's still fresh on my mind.
I'm thinking maybe we should find a time to like just do it, and we even don't post it right away, like wait a week or something, so that people had more time to see it. But I gotta say, one of the reasons I want to really push people to go to watch this is A24 doesn't usually do this wide of a release, and it's in my local theater. It seems to be in every theater across the country, and
yeah, they said it's everywhere.
You need to see it because this doesn't happen enough with A24 films, especially this early in the year. So I desperately want everyone to go and put the money into this movie because it deserves it. Even if you're not a super hardcore fan of horror, I would say probably avoid it if you're not a fan of horror at all. Like if you get scared super easy, because it will stay with you. Like I cannot shake an image out of my head from this movie.
I was afraid, and I know that you said that someone was having bad dreams. I was afraid that I was going to dream about it. I don't dream a lot, but...
You know what? I haven't dreamt about it, but I will talk a moment of a show I started watching the other night, right before I went to bed, and I had a dream about that, and I'll briefly talk about that. I guess that was the last thing you saw, right? Hereditary, and then Milk, which I don't think I mentioned, by the way. We're reviewing Milk this week. Sorry, folks. I got sidetracked with my
movie that has been on my watch list for I can't even tell you how long.
I have so much to say about Milk. I can't wait to get to it. But let me go back real quick to, we recorded last Saturday. Saturday, I went and saw Action Point, the new Johnny Knoxville movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really boring. And I was really freaked out because MoviePass said it was 2 hours, and it was like an hour and a half into the movie, and I'm like, how is it another half hour? Like,
okay.
But it wasn't. It was luckily only an hour and a half. So MoviePass's movie times are not always accurate.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, because I was like really, really freaking out that I'm like, how is this gonna go for 30 more minutes? Like, this is the end, and then the credits roll. I'm like, oh, okay, good. It is the end. But then I went and saw Upgrade, which was another South by Southwest pickup. Have you heard of Upgrade, Corey?
I have, and I'm trying to remember who's in it.
It's only one guy that is super famous, and I think super famous is an overstatement, but he is in The Invitation.
It's Logan Marshall Green.
It is, and he is amazing in this movie.
I was like walking by the poster is like so like intriguing.
Well, so
and yeah.
This is when you know it's an interesting setup, because I missed it at South by, but I heard people talking about it, and I was like, man, I really want to keep my ears open, and I didn't think I would get to see it when it came out because I didn't think our theater would get it, but we did. So I went and saw it on, I think, Sunday night, and yeah, I think I recorded something. I don't even know anymore. I did something, and as soon as I was done doing whatever that thing was, I went and saw the movie, and I was sitting down to my screening, and I got a text from Brendan, our friend of the show, who I had not spoken to for probably about a month. And he was like, dude, you need to go see Upgrade. I'm like, dude, I'm in the theater right now. Like, I'm like literally sitting down to watch it. And he had just got out of it at the Winter Haven Theater. And he's like, it's really cool. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. And I agreed. It's super fun. It's an action horror sci-fi. Some of it is very straightforward, kind of paint by numbers genre, but they do some really cool stuff with it, and some of the visuals are awesome. It's definitely heavy action, and a lot of violence. I would say it's R just for violence. I don't think there's a lot of cursing in it. There's no nudity. It's just a lot of violence, and some of the violence is pretty like I gasped at one point. It was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, it's awesome. Super good. I got a screener for a film called A Kid Like Jake that has an actress that you love who I can't stand, Claire Danes, and Jim Parsons from most famous for Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Octavia Spencer is also in it in a small role that is really strong though. And actually, a woman who is like in everything recently, Judy Greer, who is in or I'm not Judy Greer. I'm wrong. I messed up her name. Ann Dowd is the name that I wanted. Ann Dowd was in Hereditary though, and she's in A Kid Like Jake, and she's in something else I just saw. I might see it in a second.
Oh, I know.
But I watched that as a screener. My review's up on
Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff. She was in the show Leftovers on HBO TV series. I watched with my wife Wonder Wheel, the Woody Allen movie from last year, and I know you're not a big Woody Allen fan because of who Woody Allen is as a person. Yeah, and I gotta say, the movie's gorgeous, and your boy Justin Timberlake's in it, and Kate Winslet is in it as well. It's a gorgeous movie. Like it looks like the color palette is so cool. I really like the way it looks. The story's interesting, but there is one story element that you're like, why would Woody Allen even have that as a reference, like in a movie like this? There's a reference with that. It's not that a dad does something with the daughter, but it's implied that the dad has like a crush on his daughter almost. And I'm just like, why would Woody Allen put that in a movie? Why would you do that? Well, we know why. I know, but why? Like, exactly. He knows we know why. Why would you do it?
Because he's like rubbing our noses in it.
It kind of is, and that makes it a little harder to deal. And again, it's not that it's actually happening. It's just like a reference. And yeah, but I rented another A24 film, How to Talk to Girls at Parties. I liked, didn't love. It's super watchable though. Like it'd be very easy to rewatch. It's just kind of crazy. Kind of reminded me of like Dude, Where's My Car? Like craziness where like you never really know what's going on exactly, and then you do, but you're not sure because there's no way that makes sense. But yeah, it does appear to be that thing. And it's set in the 80s, like set in the late 70s British punk movement. Nicole Kidman's in it too, which is just not a normal role for her. She's not a mom. She's like the mom of all the punks. She's like a punk lady.
Other punk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kind of crazy. I watched a film called Summer of 1993, which is a Spanish film that is reminiscent of the Florida Project in that it follows a 6-year-old who has lost her parents, and she's moving in with her aunt and uncle, going from the big city of Barcelona into a smaller city in 1993. And it's a interesting movie. It's a little slow at times, but the end is an emotional payoff that's pretty strong. I watched Milk last night instead of going to see Ocean's 8 on its premiere, and I made the right choice because it rained really hard out here last night, and the power went out at our local theater, I heard. Only for a few minutes though, so everyone still got to finish their movie, but I don't like when that happens. It interrupts my whole process. But I stayed home and watched Milk with my wife, and we were both kind of blown away, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. But tonight I ended up taking my wife to go see Ocean's 8 right before the recording of this, which I gotta say, if you're a fan of the Ocean's films, it lives up, I think, to a lot of the other Oceans. I actually have only seen Ocean's 11. I didn't see 12 or 13. This is a sequel in a sense. It's not a reboot, but it does focus on new characters, but it's in the same universe as the other Ocean's films. I guess you could say it's a universe now, but I thought the ladies in it were all fantastic. Sandy B was like, I think, top of her game. Anne Hathaway was really good. Cate Blanchett's always awesome. Helena Bonham Carter's great. Mindy Kaling's awesome. Awkwafina doesn't get a lot to do, but I haven't really been introduced to her until this movie. I'm kind of intrigued by her. Do you know who she is?
No, but that's okay.
It's spelled very fun too. It's not like the water. It's like aqua, like awkward. Fina. So it's AWK. And I think she's a rapper, comedian. Like she's like a mixture of the two. She's got some funny stuff. I've watched one of her music videos. She's pretty funny. Rihanna is in the film as well, and I feel like I'm leaving. Sarah Paulson. And it's a really strong cast. They all do really great with it. There's James Corden. I think it's Corbin. Excuse me. Right? I don't know. The dude that has that one show where he sings karaoke in the car, that dude's in it. And yeah, there's some other people. We had a lot of fun with it. If you've seen the Ocean's films, though, you'll definitely recognize the formula in play. And still, it's great. It's not amazing or anything, but it's enjoyable. Definitely a good popcorn movie. And that's what I've watched this week. But the one TV show that I started this week, Corey, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I started Bates Motel.
I can't watch it.
Really?
I tried.
Wow, I am surprised by that because Vera Farmiga is in it, and you are a fan of her.
Is she the mom?
She is the mom.
Okay, I watched, I think, 1 or 2 episodes, and there's one scene that really bothered me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I can't. Goodbye.
I've watched 3 episodes, and that's the show that I could not. I watched the first 2 episodes right before I went to bed, after playing hours of a zombie game called State of Decay 2, and I did not sleep well. Not from nightmares so much, but I could not stop thinking about it. And I woke up and watched another episode after only 4 hours of sleep. So I haven't watched it again since. Yes, but. It's not because I haven't wanted to. I've been trying to get caught up on screeners, and then I think I did something one day. I was like out all day or something like that. But I really like what I've seen. It's messed up though. Totally agree. It is a tough.
And there are some things that I just can't handle. Like I tried to watch I Spit on Your Grave because my god,
okay.
all the people love like horror and it's such a good film, and it's like I watched most of it and I just couldn't anymore. Like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree actually in what you're referring to. I didn't think it was gonna start so quickly to be crazy. You know what I mean? Like I kind of thought it would take a while. They're just like, boom,
here you are.
Yeah, you were in crazy in like the first 5 minutes, and it goes. I didn't know it was a reimagining of the Psycho story either. I thought it was like a prequel to the movie, but it's like no, it's like it's own thing because it's set in modern day. Yeah. So I was kind of intrigued by that, and also I am a purist. I do love Psycho, so like I was kind of like, oh, don't mess with my Alfred Hitchcock movie. But then again, it's intriguing, and it was a book first, so I mean it's adaptable. But I like what I've seen. I think I'm gonna stick it through because it's only 50 episodes, which is a lot, but at the same time, it's not. It could be way more. Like Lost, I don't know how many episodes Lost is, but there's 6 seasons, and the first 3 seasons have like 22 episodes each. Ooh. So yeah, it gets long. So 50 doesn't feel as bad, but and it is over now, and it's all on Netflix. So, all right, Corey.
Dun dun dun! From here forward, we're going to talk about this movie, probably in great detail. You've been warned.
It's not really what it's. You're early.
Oh, oops. Well, here we are. We can just start now. Boom. I thought you were going to say it was my job, and I'm really bad at my job.
I was going to say we need to talk about Milk before we get into it. The tale of the tape, so to speak. Milk was from 2008, directed by Gus Van Sant, stars Sean Penn. It stars Josh Brolin, kind of. Emile Hirsch, who is definitely in there. Almost unrecognizable. I didn't recognize him for several minutes.
Is that Emile? Is that him? And then I was like, it's him.
Diego Luna, recognized immediately. James Franco, recognized immediately. Allison Pill. Victor Garber, who's in a lot of stuff, but I don't always see him. Dennis O'Hare, who is John Briggs in the movie.
I love him.
Joseph Cross, who I'm not super familiar with, but I know who he was in the movie. I'm seeing several other people who were in the movie I'm not as familiar with. But this movie has an 84 Metacritic and a 7.6 IMDb user score, and I know it won some Academy Awards. Corey, you picked this movie for our theme this month, which I should remind the listeners. Our theme this month is LBGTQ+. And what made you pick this one?
It has been on my list for a very long time. I've just been intrigued by it. I don't really know. I've just really been interested in it for a long time, but I just kept putting it off.
I don't really know. Like, I knew that Sean Penn won an award for this, and he did. He won Best Performance by an actor in a leading role for his performance as Harvey Milk. I did not know anything about Harvey Milk. I didn't know who Harvey Milk was. And I just never had an interest in it. I don't even remember seeing a trailer or anything for this. I've seen the box art, and the box art's not super, like, it doesn't like, oh, you should watch me in my eyes. And I knew nothing about this story, which kind of upsets me a lot, that I knew nothing about the story.
It's pretty effing important.
Yeah, it's so many things about it are not important. It's intriguing. It's crazy. Some of the details, which we'll get to in spoilers, but
well, I already laid the foundation for that.
Which we're not there yet, though.
No.
It did win also for Best Original Screenplay, but it was nominated for Best Picture, did not win. Nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Josh Brolin. And nominated for Best Director for Gus Van Sant. And Van Sant has, it's funny that I mentioned Psycho, because if you are not familiar, Gus Van Sant did the 1990, I think, 3 remake of Psycho.
Oh, I thought it was later than that.
Maybe it's 90.
That was like 98 or something.
Okay, I could be off. Maybe it's 98. I'm pulling it up. You are correct, exactly. 1998, which starred Vince Vaughn and, Anne Heche. I always forget her name. And then Julianne Moore and... I need to rewatch this because I keep forgetting Viggo Mortensen is in it.
I enjoyed that remake. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I like it.
Well, most people hate it. It's interesting because Robert Forster and Philip Baker Hall are in that. I saw it as a kid. In fact, I believe that was my first version of Psycho that I saw. My mom took me to see it at Mugs and Movies when it came, and I remember being just very disturbed over when he first looks at her through the peephole because of the sounds that Van Sant added that is not in the original movie. But it's a notorious film to say the least. But it's definitely you remake, because it's not just like he readapted it like the TV show Psycho. He went for a shot-for-shot remake, and I'm doing quote fingers because it's not 100% the same, but it is very, very close. Yeah, I kind of want to rewatch it just as now that I'm so familiar with Psycho. I've taught Psycho. I've watched it many, many times. I've read about it. I've analyzed it to the point of ridiculousness, I think. And,
so John is the professional here, not me.
Well, so I'd like to rewatch Van Sant's version because I've not seen it from that perspective. I've only seen it before I saw the original. So, and I was 16, I think. So. Yep, 100% sure, 16. So, I'd like to give it another go. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Van Sant's film, Milk. I already said that I thought it was outstanding. You were the one who picked it. Were you happy with your choice?
Exceeded expectations.
I was most impressed by the story, I think, more than anything, and the performances. In fact, for Emile Hirsch, I think this is the first time I've liked him in a movie. Because I didn't really like him in Alpha Dogs, and he's in is it Lords of Dogtown is the actual movie?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because there's a documentary, I think it's Z-Boy and I don't remember. One's Z-Boy and something, the other one's the Lords of Dogtown. I think that's the narrative.
Lords of Dogtown.
And I liked that movie, kind of. I didn't really like Emile Hirsch in the movie. But I liked him a lot in this movie. Love Sean Penn.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too, actually. And I love Sean Penn in this. And I don't dislike Sean Penn, but I've seen some Sean Penn movies that I don't like, and so I'm not enthralled to go watch a Sean Penn film. I do love Josh Brolin, and I love that he keeps popping up in our movies on the show.
No, on accident.
It is on accident. It's almost like we're doing the year of Josh Brolin, but we're not. He just keeps popping up in these awesome movies that we had missed for some reason. And I really liked him a lot in this, even though I was disappointed with the amount of time he was in the movie. The biggest shock for me, and sorry, I'm not trying to steal all of the time here, was James Franco, though. Because
he wasn't obnoxious.
Exactly.
Enjoyed his screen time. I was like, why can't you always be like this?
He was subtle and kind of composed, and he played a different type of character than he often plays, and I really, really liked him in this, which is saying something, because I often don't like Franco. And I was excited to see Allison Pill, because she's Kim in Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
So anytime she's in something, I'm always excited. I'm like, ooh, I hope she gets to do stuff. She didn't get to do a whole lot, but she did get to do some important stuff. So I'm happy
she was a badass. She went in there and
Yes.
whipped everything. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and she had total confidence, which is great. Very different than her role as Kim for most of Scott Pilgrim, where she's kind of indifferent and satirical. I believe she was in Mike Birbiglia's Sleepwalk with Me as well, which I like that movie a whole lot. So, interesting. But so you liked it, I liked it. I did have some little nitpicky issues with the filmmaking part of the movie.
No.
But nothing,
Not allowed.
nothing that destroys the experience. Because again, I feel like this story is one that people should know, and I didn't. And this movie's not that old; it's only 10 years old. And I had, it won an Academy Award, but I still don't feel like enough people have seen this. In fact, I know because a very good friend of mine who is a history teacher who loves history, like obsesses over history, who knows about the Harvey Milk story, didn't even know the movie existed.
Oh.
And she's not a super movie person, but she's definitely like a movie person. So, that the fact that she hadn't seen it and didn't know about it says something to me that we need to talk about this movie. It's really it's a crazy story. It's an important story. I hated that Florida got dragged into it again, but like in a way that it was not a good way, but at the same time, it did set their path ablaze. So. The odd thing about this movie, I guess we could have jumped right into spoilers because this is a true story to a degree. Obviously, it's a biopic, so it's not a documentary. So there's going to be liberties and exaggerations and hyperbole and all sorts of that kind of thing. But it is based on a real person and real events.
Damn.
Oh.
Okay, so I just realized this. I feel like we're just going to talk about... I'm just going to start talking. So I didn't realize that the year that this came out was the year that we voted on Amendment 2.
Oh, interesting.
Because I still lived there for one more year after that. But I didn't realize that. And I knew when we went in to vote for this, I knew that they were going to, like, word it so that it just didn't sound appealing to anyone. And I felt like they made it sound like it was for plural marriage, but we were really just voting. I mean, so I just feel like this is still so relevant because and just a few years ago, we were voting in Idaho to add the 4 words to protect people and their jobs against, I'm not very good with words sometimes, but because of their sexual orientation.
Yeah, no, I mean, did you just, like, pull that up by chance, or?
I felt like it happened. It must have happened around the same time. I was like,
oh, okay.
I know that we were voting about this, and I know that it was really about same-sex marriage. And I asked a coworker, and because she got to vote early because her husband is in the service.
Okay, yeah,
and she was like, yeah, they totally made it sound like that when I was reading it. So... it made me think of it for some reason. Just how, like, this took place in the 70s, and here we are, and it's still...
Yeah, I mean, gay marriage has only been legal for... I mean, this isn't about gay marriage, this is about gay rights in general, which was, a bigger deal, and let's get into spoilers real quick. Go ahead, Corey. Do your job.
I already did it.
No, you didn't. I cut you off.
I know. Okay, so, guys, we're going to talk about Milk in great detail. It's from 2008. Go watch it on Netflix or Full Steam Ahead. We're going to talk about this, and also it's real life, so you could Wikipedia it if you know.
Wait, did you say Milk?
Milk.
Oh,
no.
Milk. Okay.
No, which makes me think of that stupid video, Milk.
Oh my God, have you seen that?
Milk. I fucking hate it.
Oh, you're cursing a lot.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's funny because the other day I made that joke to my daughter, and then she had never seen the video, so I showed her the video. And
yes.
Last night when she came, she was out with her friend, and she came home after Kathy and I watched the movie, and Kathy was like, "I think telling Taylor that she should watch the movie. That I think it's important that you see it." And Taylor's like, "What was the movie?" I'm like, "Milk," and she's like, "Malk?" And Kathy doesn't get it, but Taylor and I are like dying. And so like that's a little Julian Smith reference there, old school YouTubers, but so. I didn't know anything about this. At the very beginning of the movie, though, Gus Van Sant does not hide the ending. He tells us in a news report that he's going to die. You hear him say Harvey Milk was assassinated. So I knew at the very beginning of the movie. Now, my wife missed that. So when the end was coming, she's like, is he going to die? I'm like, yeah, they told us he's going to die. And she's like, I didn't hear that. I'm like, yep, that's you're going to be upset then because he's about to die like any second.
No.
Now, what I didn't catch, though, when they said it, because I think they said who killed him, and I didn't hear that. So I wasn't sure who was going to do it. And
I
when
don't remember them saying that.
it's 100%, a news report says it, but it's again, my attention to details like that have become almost like a spider sense, as I've trained myself to look for like the little things that are likely going to be important later that we will initially think are not. That is something that I tend to be pretty good at. I miss some, and you catch some that I didn't. I remember there was a movie you saw recently where you're like, I figured it out, and I'm like, what? Really? I had no clue that was going to happen. This one, again, I don't think he was trying to hide it, though. I think this was just, it was like, there was a lot of stock footage or archival footage at the beginning of the movie, like actual news footage of things that are happening.
I liked his use of those things throughout the movie.
Yes, I didn't. The one thing, Harvey is recording a tape cassette throughout the film. He's like narrating his life. And
to be listened to if he is assassinated.
And I wish they gave us a frame of time of when he recorded the tapes, because that's the thing. If they might have and I missed it, but I didn't, like, when did he finish recording the tapes in reference to his actual death? Because in the movie it could be like the same, like he could have finished it the day before, but I feel like it was probably way earlier in his political career, you know, because he got his death threat like early on in his political runnings.
Well, we know it was after at least the second time he ran, because he had the haircut.
Valid point. He was not the hippie anymore. But I did like that. I thought that was interesting. Especially, I'm assuming those tapes are real, which I've not done any research to find out if that is true or not. If it is, it's far more intriguing than if it's just a plot device or a narrative device in the film. Excuse me. But I was very shocked at who the assassin was. And that, I think, is one of the most important parts of this whole story, because of the nonsense that happens. One, it was, you can't say it's not a hate crime, but it wasn't someone who was like anti-homosexual rights activist or something, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't some enthusiast or someone who you would expect. It was a colleague. It was another elected official who had resigned, and they had some conflict with each other, but he apparently had enough of everything. He shoots the mayor and then goes and shoots Harvey. I don't understand, like, how you're able to shoot someone 3 times and then walk through the building. I don't even care if you leave the back way. There's no way that someone wouldn't have, you know what I mean? I would like to think not. Especially
with the silencer, like, you can still hear guns.
I think they even show that the secretary heard some loud thumps. So yeah, I don't know how he was able to do that either. That was shocking, and again, that could be for the movie. It might be that the actual events took place slightly differently. Even like the part that I thought was a little too movie was Harvey looking out the window at the opera.
Oh yeah.
And then like being executed. Like, I'm like, I don't know if he was like, did he get shot 3 times, fall to his knees, turn around, look out the window, have a moment to reflect on his favorite opera, and then be shot in the back of the head? I don't know if that was just for the movie. I've not read about the details of the assassination, but I am still, the thing that shocked me the most was that he got away with manslaughter.
I know, because wouldn't that be, I mean, I don't know a lot about law, but manslaughter is usually when it's not premeditated or on purpose.
They said it wasn't, they argued, in the end captions, it calls it the Twinkie defense, and I've read the Wikipedia about the Twinkie defense. The argument in the movie that it says in the captions is that he got off because he was eating too much junk food, and it messed up his balance. What the actual defense is, according to the article I read on Wikipedia, so I guess grain of salt, but it sounds much more plausible than that as a defense, is that the amount of junk food he was eating was indicative of a larger mental health disorder called depression, and that he was so out of sorts, hence the bad diet, that is why he killed them, and thus a mental health argument got him manslaughter. Which is much more plausible than a dietary. And then again, I think the implications is that it was because of Harvey's standing as an outed gay man in the time period where they were fighting for gay rights, in a world where gay homosexuality was definitely still not accepted. I mean, it's barely accepted now, and it's 2018, you know, so I mean, people were still fighting, as you pointed out, 10 years ago. We were still fighting for equality amongst homosexuality and heterosexuals, and at least we're closer. But there's still a lot of hate out there and things like that, which is why I think partly why we're participating in the month of June with LBGTQ plus.
I think that it also, like, when I was watching the movie, we hear a lot about the women's movement, and we always equate civil rights movement with
Yes.
Black people. We always, like, recognize those movements, but we don't really talk about the gay
I knew nothing about
movement.
this. There were so many details. One,
Like,
that
how... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I love how this all kind of plays out. That Harvey, when we first meet Harvey and he meets Franco, whose name was Scott, he's playing the character Scott, or real life person, in New York. He is not out.
Insurance salesman.
Yeah, and he's not out because of the atmosphere, and like there's references to like the police brutality towards gay men, and
See, that is what I really liked about the like archival footage. Is they're like showing these cops, like, I'm pretty sure that they show some scenes of them like beating them, but they're just showing them like packing them into police station wagons and like hauling them off, and I've never seen any kind of visuals like that.
Yeah, I agree. Not for like you said, like we think civil rights movements, we think the women's movement, we think of the Black movement where we were, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X as the leaders, and obviously tons and tons and tons of other people involved. But those are the two, I guess, figureheads when the movement is discussed. And I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, obviously the fight had to start somewhere. Like the idea of rights, I didn't know when, I didn't know where. And I will say too, I've always heard that San Francisco had a very large homosexual population, but I didn't know anything about it, and this makes sense. Like they started kind of the revolution.
It was like 20% of the population
in the movie.
I think.
I don't know the number, but yeah, I think they did say something because they were talking about voting like logistics and stuff, and that unfortunately where my brain does not process stuff like that. So I was like, like I also don't know why they were boycotting Coors beer. I know they were asked to, but I don't know like why. I didn't understand, like, was Coors, like, anti-homosexual at some point? Like, or was it just some other company was trying to, like, push them out so people would buy their beer? Like, I didn't get why they did that, but...
I can't remember now that you're saying it, but I do remember that he said that they started hiring out, like, gay men who were, out, as their drivers.
Coors did?
Yeah.
Is that why?
No.
They probably fired somebody then who was outed.
I think. Oh, geez. Now that we're talking about it, I'm like.
Okay,
yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like it was Coors.
It was definitely Coors beer, but I didn't get why they were boycotting it though. I guess is what, like I knew what they were boycotting. I didn't know why they were doing it, and that I missed that part somehow. But nonetheless, I was impressed with so much of the performances. Brolin as the villain, which I kind of didn't see coming. I actually thought Diego Luna's Jack was gonna be because he was crazy. I thought he would kill.
Crazy as heck.
Yeah, I thought he would end up killing Harvey and then himself, because of jealousy or something. Which he does kill himself, which was a tragic moment in the film when he finds him and how he blames himself. But yeah, man, there was some really good stuff, and it was super. It was devastating seeing him killed.
Yes, and I first. So they go to this part of San Francisco. What was it? The Cora. It was the theater.
The Castro.
Yeah, no? You're right.
The Castro is the the street that they're on.
Oh, what's the name of the? Because I thought that they were kind of like gathered around the theater, so I thought they were calling it. I thought the Castro was a theater, so that's my bad. Okay. But he right when they move there, they get a place to live, and he decides to open a camera shop, and they think that they can be out, and it's fine. And then did you notice when he was shaking the hand of the person he was leasing the building from, the guy took out something and wiped his hands off, and then like don't touch me.
Yeah, that was kind of the whole discussion about how businesses who didn't accept homosexuals would get shut down and the other businesses would open up. And
they did it for real.
And I just watching him like kind of fall into activism was really cool, because he wasn't a politician. He was an insurance salesman, who then started a camera store, but cared about something so much that he put his own life at risk, and obviously, kind of indirectly is the cause of his death. I mean, again, he was expecting to be assassinated because he was fighting the system. You know, there were some big opposition out there. Anita Bryant, who started the movement in Dade County, Florida, who was getting gay rights revoked, where people could fire someone for being gay. And that starts happening across the country, where they're revoking the laws that give...
All they wanted. And their housing, too.
Yeah, they wanted to not be able to be denied normal human rights because of their sexual orientation. That's all they wanted. That's all they were asking for at that moment. And
when it moved to California, they were trying to fire all the homosexual teachers.
Yeah, fighting and calling them pedophiles.
Pedophiles, and it's equivalent to bestiality.
Yeah, and that was still... That's when gay marriage was on the list. Yeah. People were like, well, what's to stop us from marrying animals? I'm like, how
are you even making that? How are you going from A to B there? What are you doing?
And I understand this is a divisive topic. There are still people who don't agree with this. My philosophy of humanity is, if you're not hurting someone else, then we shouldn't be denying you your human rights, period. Like, if you're not, killing people or raping people, or, it's ridiculous that we are trying to control other people's sexual orientation. Like, it's not affecting you, then don't worry about it. Just let people be people, because you probably do something that someone doesn't like, and you're probably not being punished for it. As long as you're not infringing on someone else's rights to do the same. You're not hurting people or something in the process of doing the thing that you're doing. Then we need to chill out and let humans be humans and love each other and accept each other, because that's every one of these civil. If we look at the women's movement, if we look at the African American movement in America, or if we look at the gay rights movement, they are all looking for the same thing, which is to be treated as equal. And that shouldn't be that freaking hard.
It shouldn't even be a thing.
It shouldn't be. It's ridiculous that it was ever not a thing.
We should be talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's sad is that we're still talking about it, because it's still an issue. It's not resolved, because even the equality that those three movements have got is not equal. There is still an indifference. And of course, I am among the freaking patriarch, essentially, being a white male, but and a straight white male at that. So I am in none of those categories, and yet I see there's a problem, like clear problem. And I was kind of the most upset because, one, he only gets 5 years in jail for killing two men, a mayor and the city supervisor for his district, and
all because, and I would love to know what deal the police officers made to him, because he gives his resignation.
Yes.
He's walking out, and then he's pulled into the office of the city police. Something happens behind closed doors, and then he comes out all of a sudden and he wants his job back.
Now, of course, that's done in the movie. I don't know how accurate that would have played out in real life. Like, because Harvey sees him go into the police thing, that's very much for the film, I think, over dramatized, that kind of thing. I could be wrong, of course. It's possible that it happened right in front of Harvey, but it does feel a little too on the nose for Harvey to have witnessed it. But I am curious as to what happened to why resign and then